Music, it makes moments for all of us, right? The moment you first heard that song, the moment you saw them live, the moment you just knew. Music makes moments, but it's also made from moments. Moment You Made It is a show that seeks to find those moments for those artists, creators, and business professionals alike who make music into the moments that you remember. Moment You Made It is a podcast hosted by three creatives from the live music capital of the world. Director of the Texas Music Office, Brendan Anthony, singer-songwriter Fred Andrews, and Executive Director of the Austin Music Movement, Nick Shuley. Moment You Made It seeks to document the most compelling conversations with people that make those musical moments.
You know, we got the chance to interview this kid, Triston Marez, who is fantastic. And he's one of those that I spent some time with his music and became like an uber dork fan and cannot wait to see this kid perform live. Cause I think this kid's got something big and has some big potential. And it was cool to hear his story, and especially my new favorite song, Darlin', which he explained the true meaning behind that song. And I think that was probably hands down my favorite part of the episode.
It's a Twitter mishap is what that is. And I think a lot of people make those, but he goes into that in detail. It's really cool. Yeah. So Triston, I saw open for Pat Green out at Nutty Brown several months ago. And I've known his manager, Alex, for a long time. They're great people. Triston's working with great folks. What's really fun, he comes from a place that celebrates country music, and that's what he sings. And well, did I spike there? So
yeah, damn.
He comes from a place that celebrates country music, and that's what he plays, and he plays it really well. And it's great to see people coming up who have decided to take that path. Traditional kind of country music that I sort of recognize from my time coming up in the 90s. It's fantastic.
You think he's 90s?
Well, I mean, I definitely think there's an influence there. He's definitely writing his own stuff. They're not cover songs by any stretch. They're great songs. But I can tell that, he's grown up listening to a bunch of stuff that I really like too.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for people to get to know him. I think everybody's really going to enjoy this episode.
Absolutely. Fred, do you have any thoughts? Because you appear to have left the room.
I'm just thinking about our conversations with that kid, and he
doesn't remember this episode. So let's just jump right into the episode.
I had a good feeling.
He's great. I hope y'all enjoy Triston Marez. Great to talk to him.
Morning, Triston, man. Thanks for joining us today. How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing great,
Triston.
man.
All right.
What's up?
Fred, Nick, how are y'all doing?
We're great, man.
Great.
Lovely day.
Back together again. It is a lovely day. It's good to get together and talk here, man. I appreciate your taking the time out to do this.
Oh, no problem. It's gonna be fun.
Man, it was great to meet you this weekend. It was really interesting to get back and see some live music, and I can't imagine it. It must have been kind of weird to get back on stage after such a long break. But I got to tell you, like, I'd heard your music, and we'll definitely get into that a little bit. But I thought you and the band did a fantastic job, and like I said, it must have been weird to kick the dust off and get back up there. Yeah. You opened for Pat and did 2 shows here in Austin. Man, what was that like? What was it like to look out and see a crowd again?
It was weird. It was definitely a good feeling, but I definitely didn't expect it to hit me that way. Because when you start doing something for a routine, we did it for every weekend all of last year pretty much, and we were starting to get in front of bigger crowds, and then going from a 6-month break and then to Pat Green's crowd, it was definitely a shock for sure. Definitely missed a few lyrics, that's for sure. But no, it was great to be on stage and great to play music with the band, and that was definitely fun.
Well, I think Fred will tell you missed lyrics happen all the time.
Oh, I am the best at it. I don't know if there's anybody better than me at missing lyrics, and if there is, I want to know, because I'm the best at forgetting my own lyrics.
That's nice. And the thing is, it's your own lyrics, so no one really, no one knows. You can make some stuff up.
Yeah, until there's one person singing every lyric in the front, right. And you're like, well, dang it, she's gonna know.
Yeah. I think you're about to have that problem a whole lot more too, man. I got to tell you, it's really cool that you're starting to come along, and that fan base is starting to know every word, because I'm very confident that's about to happen a lot more for you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, before we talk about where you found yourself today, I think it's pretty evident that you come from some type of musical background. What was that like for you growing up? Was your family into it? Do you have brothers and sisters that play? Were your folks musical? What happened there?
I just grew up listening to country music, honestly. My mom, she's a singer. She sings. She never did it professionally, but, I was growing up, always hearing her sing. My dad, blue collar guy, he was always working, but on the radio, that was always on country music or heavy metal. It was either that or rock music. So I guess I got the in between. But growing up, music was always around. On my mom's side, we got some family from Oklahoma that are big on the folk music. So I guess that kind of comes in that blood. So
nice. So you got some, not to use weird genre words, but you got some Texas and red dirt sort of mixed in there a little bit,
for sure.
I guess.
For sure, songwriting too. And
I'm not quite sure what we're calling all that, but yeah.
I feel like it's shifting. I think it just grows.
It does.
Music.
It does. So you started playing early, though, right? I mean, your bio is fun, and then we were talking a little bit backstage, a little bit, and you're like, "Yeah, man, I've been doing this pretty much my whole life."
Well, I've actually picked up the guitar. I got a guitar. I don't know. It's like everyone's story. When I was young, 5 years old, maybe. Which I actually found my first guitar not too long ago. I actually have it in my room. It's pretty funny. Super
nice.
Small. But I picked it up about 5. Did some lessons, but I was big in sports. I did baseball all my life up until high school. And I didn't start singing until maybe sophomore year of high school, I think it was. I didn't tell anybody because I was on the baseball team. I didn't want anybody to know. I don't know why. I didn't want anybody finding out. It caused a big deal or I don't know what they'd say. And actually, one time, though, I did this contest. I was in FFA, and we had a ag show in Fort Bend County Fair. And my teacher found out. I don't know how she found out, but she did. And she goes, you got to try this contest out. And I was like, no, it's a little cheesy, whatever I'll do. Well, I ended up winning it. And the principal, I remember this is how everyone found out, and this is the funniest thing I'll never forget. The principal at lunch, I was sitting at the table with the whole baseball team. And the principal at lunch, he goes, man, we have an announcement. Triston Marez won the singing contest at the Fort Bend County Fair. I'm like, no. He pulled me up in front of the whole lunchroom. I was like, oh, my God.
He's proud of you. That's great.
Nightmare discovery.
I know.
Yeah, so there you go. That's how I got out.
It's a funny thing, though. all the baseball players love country music. It's
They
like
do.
the athletes really, really love music.
That is
But they'll
true.
make fun of you for doing it. And that's
Right.
it's like, wait a minute. And it's vice
For
versa,
sure.
too. I mean, the musicians are like, they don't even call it baseball. They call it sports ball. They're like,
Sports ball. Yep.
I remember, trying to play football with one of my guitar players. I just thought everybody knew how to catch a football. And I just
Right.
kind of tossed it to him, and he just pushed it away with both hands, like didn't even know.
That's how you can tell a real musician. You throw a baseball at him.
Yeah,
Different
it hits him right in the face.
So
That's
did you find? I mean, just to follow that vein for a second, did you find that? I mean, did they kind of come around and start kind of getting behind you on it?
No, they did. They definitely
100%.
took it better than I thought. So I wasn't too embarrassed then. But, so after that, I honestly did a bunch of YouTube videos back when YouTube was like really big. People would post acoustic videos, and I started doing that and kind of built a following just by doing that. And then they kind of went to Instagram. And so ever since then, I've been taking it, serious. And so, yeah.
Well, that's a pretty big jump between playing some YouTube videos and what you're doing now. I mean, there's obviously been a lot of listening in between then and now too. I mean, it's great to listen to your music. I've been playing a bunch of it, leading up to talking to you today and leading up to the show. And what I like most about it, for me, this will show my age, but that's the music that I was listening to as it was coming out for the first time in the 90s. And, being a fiddle player myself, having grown up playing classical violin, like
Yeah.
the music that you're making now kind of looks back to this 90s country thing that was so fantastic. You're doing it with an originality and a uniqueness that's all yours, but
Thank you.
I hear that instrument. Yeah, absolutely. And I hear those instruments that taught me that I could do something besides play classical violin. I could take my instrument and play it with the band, and it was a kind of music that a lot of people really liked, and it's fantastic to hear that music being made by someone of your generation in such an original way. You're not playing covers. You're doing it in a way that's all your own. So did you grow up hearing those songs? It seems like that would have been almost like classic rock for you at that time. I mean,
Well, so I was born late 90s. So I got the edge of that 90s music still on the radio because it still played on country music as I can remember. And then it was early 2000s really. And early 2000s wasn't it was far off, but not too far off to where, you kind of got that 90s vibe a little bit. But 90s country was always on the radio, whether it was a CD or on the radio. And I just fell in love with it. My great grandpa, he gave me CD. I still have it as well, and it's called Classic Country Hits, and I just grew up listening to that whole thing nonstop. And so yeah, I guess I grew around the '90s era, or the classic, Merle Haggard and Waylon and all those guys. So I think I tried to hit.
What was on that disc, Tristan, on Classic Country Hits?
What was that?
What was on that disc?
That song "Dang Me."
Yeah. Roger Miller.
Roger Miller. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was my favorite song. I think it's like track 3, and oh my gosh, I love that song.
So those are actually classic. I'm glad you said that, because I think Nick was angling at it was like, if you put on Classic Country Hits and it was, Time Marches On and Killing Time, I was like, that's where I thought this was going.
I'm gonna leave.
That's funny. No,
That's
I
classic
remember
country.
Dang Me was on. It was like track 3. That's the only one I remember that I truly, really remember. But man, I used to listen to that song on repeat. I thought it was the greatest.
Well, that's a good tune and a great songwriter and a singer to help make an impression early. I think that comes in a couple different buckets, right? Because you said, and it's kind of similar to how a bunch of us, I think, came up, is you've got this respect and an understanding for Merle and Waylon, California, the ACM side and the CMA side, which were two really cool different things, and then this blend of that kind of stuff in the 90s. Right. Two big buckets that I think a lot of us kind of listened to growing up. I think that's evident in your music.
Awesome.
I like that you're using, and that you and others, I don't want to group you unless you're comfortable with it, but there's a group of others who are still using those instruments in that.
Oh, for sure.
In that music too, and the ones I'm talking about. You've got steel doing the melody and some lead. You've got fiddle doing melody and some lead. Telecaster doing melody and some lead. Some really cool sounding stuff. I really dig what you're doing.
Well, the cool thing is too, you're not just seeing it in Texas come up. I mean, you're starting to see it now. Nashville's approaching it in a different way. I think they're kind of bleeding out of that, what we've been listening to for the past 10 years. I think it's starting to come back, which I'm happy about.
Well, that town's always been, and I have great respect for Nashville, and I've got great respect for the people who make the records there. I've got great respect for the business they make there. It's always been a cyclical place. There's a trend and a chasing trend that's happened every single decade, every single generation. We've seen one over the past 10 years that some people gravitate towards and some people don't, that's for sure. But I think it's been similar in most decades. There's a group of people who see a traditional element that's been lost and an evolutionary period, and that turns some people off and ropes more people in. That's what's great about country music. What's always been cool about country music. I think it's great when you can take some really good elements and roll them back into a more modern sound. What's been your experience with the producers you've worked with? Is that something they've been collaborative with you on?
Oh, for sure. David Dorn, he's been amazing. I mean, I can go on and on about him. He's been real helpful, and he, being with the team that understands your vision exactly the way you do, with a little bit of their own style too. I mean, it helps to be with those kind of people in your team, and especially in the studio. The first time I was in the studio, I remember, I was a little nervous because I never recorded with anybody but, the people I got to pick out. And I walked in and I felt right. Everything felt right. I had my own opinion, and they put in theirs, and we came together and created country music. And I couldn't be happy with the team in the studio for sure.
That's a good outcome. I mean, that's the best outcome. And, management seems like, and I've talked to Alex a bunch too, and, management seems to be squarely behind that strategy too. And what I've heard described from, and I don't want to put you in the bucket of a younger artist. I don't want to limit you that way in this conversation. But to be fair, you're a younger artist who's on his way up, defining what could be your sound for the next 20, 30, 40 years, whatever you want to make of it. And I again, have all the confidence in the world you'll be able to do that. How important would you say it is, and other people are going to listen to this, to know and understand your brand and your sound early?
Well, it really is important. I mean, to me, I didn't really stick to a brand. I really just made music I fell in love with. And I think that's really important. Being an artist, you can't look at somebody else and say you want to be like them, because there's already somebody like that. If you can feed off of that vibe or that artist and make it your own. But I think it's real important to really stick to who you are. Don't change for anybody else, but just create music that you love. And I think in the end, fans will appreciate that more, because they're seeing exactly who you are, not just as an artist, but as a person as well.
Yeah, and I think along those lines too, what I really enjoy about what you've done thus far, and I think you probably say that it's just happened naturally, but I like how the way you market yourself and your social media does. It's not like a full it's not like a full rebrand where it feels like I'm in 1993 and you're wearing all this and that. You're you on here, and then you on stage, and then your music, and it doesn't have to match up. And I think that's the way you're going to get, and you have gotten younger fans plus older fans. It's like, it's two different areas, and they might not communicate with each other, but I think it's really interesting. And I mean, is that do you just kind of do what you want online and for marketing, or is it, is there a calculated approach to that?
Well, it depends. Yeah, it's been more of myself, for the good or the better, or for the worse. I don't know. It seems to be working. I got to watch myself sometimes, but I really just, social media these days is just a great way for people to find out who you really are. They find the music, and then they want to know, who's this guy? Like, I want to see more of him. I want to see pictures. What's his mind like? So I try to be more open on Twitter and Instagram and all that. The songs that I write, that's me, but that's, Instagram is just a great way to show your personal life. And it's been fun. Social media is fun. It's kind of a trap too. I wish I didn't have to do it, but these days you kind of have to stay on top of that.
Got to do it.
You got to do it. You got to do it. And sometimes it's a little hard to keep up, but like what you said, I remember somebody had said that I wear a flat bill sometimes. I'm like, well, I can't wear a bent up ball cap. That's just not me. So, I try to stay myself no matter what people say, and maybe that's the hard part too.
But I think
touching on what. Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Fred.
Oh, touching on what Nick and Brendan both said, and describing how you're evolving and creating a sound for yourself and an image for yourself for the next 20, 30 years. What Brendan said. That's something. That is something right now, because you're what, 20 what?
23.
23, and Ray Wiley Hubbard said this. He says, "Don't write a song that you don't want to sing for the rest of your life."
100%.
And that's
100%.
You're so young and so moldable. It's awesome, man. I mean, you get to choose who you're going to be, and you're already at a young age. You have this team around you that's letting you do what you want to do, which is great.
Right.
So it's.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I want to point something out, because I think this is a really good avenue to pursue for a second. When I was coming up playing with some folks, there was a lot of exposure that happened, and all of that exposure either came to the radio through the sale of a CD or meeting them off the stage, right? So a band would go, they'd play in front of a whole lot of people if they're really lucky, sell some records to people. There were liner notes. A radio could expose some part of your personality if you went in and did these radio tours that we did relentlessly for a long time. It is such an opportunity now through social media to share a different part of yourself, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So you said, and I thought it was interesting what you said. You said, I want people to know my mind too, which was not something that artists were necessarily called upon to volunteer 20 years ago.
Right.
It was just something that was not, people didn't rely on the artist to share anything other than his or her music or image. That has to be an advantage, right? I mean, I'm personally glad that when I was coming up, there wasn't a camera in everybody's hand, and there wasn't a video in everyone's hand, for a lot of reasons. I mean, frankly, once you leave the stage, there's some people that think that relationship stops with the fan. You've been really good at navigating this. I mean, I was checking around the other day, and you have tens of thousands of followers on these platforms. That's not easy to do, and that's real power. That's
the Twitter picture.
Yeah, that's
sexy son of a bitch right there.
Yeah. That's awesome.
This is like being with the baseball team right now, apparently.
That's hilarious.
No, man, but I think that's something that's key, because a lot of times you'll see a quote new artist pop out, right? And everything on their socials is so branded, so crisp, so clean. It's like, everything's official, and the interaction and the levels that happen on that account aren't what you see on something like yours, where you're popping up stuff about like, oh my gosh, I was just here, and you post something, and it's relatable. And I think it goes along with what you did in your music, which is, I'm just making what I want to make. And I think it's really interesting, and I think you're doing it right. And I don't think it's happened a lot with that kind of music.
Well, thank you. It's people want to relate to you every single day. I mean, not just when you walk off stage. I mean, if they love your music, they're going to want to relate to you as a person as well. And I've noticed that, and that's why I stay away from branding as much as I can. Like when I think you asked the question of how do I promote my music, I actually try to promote less. If that makes, I don't know, it's the weirdest thing. Like my manager hates me for it. When we release something, I'll maybe post about it 2 times, 3 times before, and I think it's more breathable. It's not forced and shoved in people's face. And I think nowadays, and this is just me, I don't know if it's true. I don't know if there's any numbers behind it, but at least with the people that follow me and that have been listening, seems like they like it too when I just kind of relax. I just put it out there every once in a while, not force it. And I'm not sure why that is, but it just seems like
it's authentic. It's authentic.
I guess that's the right word. It's authentic.
Great. You know your market. You know your fans. You know the people that want to know more about you. You're just being your authentic self, and that's going to get you so far.
Yeah, so I guess that's just when I've been trying to stick to. I mean, there's going to be a time where I'm going to have to, push it out there a little bit more. We have an album coming out. I'm probably not going to push it out one time. Probably going to be doing it a lot more than just once like I usually do. But I think people just want to relate to you and think of you as a person like them. Like they would want to go get a beer with you or go, to a dance hall or, something like that.
But I do think that people do want to put you on a pedestal. They want to have a beer with you. That's where they want you to be. But people still like to have their stars and they want them up here. They don't want to, they don't want to, there is a fine balance.
Yeah, there is 100%. You're exactly right. Once you get too personal, then it's like, there's no special stigma around you and they kind of lose that. But it's social media is a weird thing. I'll stick with that. It's a weird thing for an artist these days. You got to compete with other artists as in staying relevant and on top of your game. And then you got to be to where you're not too personal to where they lose that stigma from you. And it's just a weird thing. I hate it.
I wish you could bottle up that. Wish you could bottle up that point on the graph, right, and just say this is where it is.
Yep.
And if I never leave this point on the graph, I'll give people just enough to be personable and authentic, and just enough to have enough mystery from my personal side, so that people still want to come see me on a stage, right?
Right.
So let me back up just a little bit because I think we're talking about the here and now a ton, and we sort of talked about we got in the Wayback Machine for a second and talked about kind of growing up. You didn't win the talent competition in high school and then start making records. How I mean
no.
that's not how anybody works. There are no overnighters. Yeah.
I wish it was. That'd be easy. No, actually after that I kind of again I was still focused on sports, still did baseball. But it's kind of funny. I actually got hurt my junior year. I wasn't able to play baseball. I broke my hand. And then I picked up the guitar a lot and a lot more than I used to, started singing a lot more. I kind of fell out of love with school. I don't know how to say that, at 17 or 18 it was, 17. If I couldn't play ball, I didn't want to do school. And it was kind of a weird mindset I was in. But I'm kind of thankful for it because that gave me the time to really focus on music. And I actually, quote unquote, dropped out of high school. I moved to homeschool to actually completely focus on music. I went to Nashville during Christmas break. This is pretty much how it all started. I went to Nashville Christmas break after I broke my wrist, saved up some money, drove. I seen Luke Combs play at the Belcourt Taps, which is it's no bigger than my little studio here. Tiny. I seen him play. He played Hurricane, One Number Away. He played like 3 of his biggest songs right now.
He's huge.
I seen him play
so good
and then I went to the listening room the next day and seen Chris Stapleton play before he was huge. And I fell in love. I fell in love with music even more. And at that time, I was still doing YouTube, still doing Instagram, and kind of pushing myself as an artist. And I don't know what's going on there. And so when I got back, I was like, yeah, music's exactly what I want to do. There's no doubt about it. So I actually went ahead and dropped out of high school. Crazy. Don't do this. Don't follow my route. And I got a job. I got a job at a warehouse. I just turned 18 and got a job at a warehouse, saved up money, and I actually went to Nashville. And So at that time, though, I had done a Houston rodeo contest. And big thanks to the rodeo. They've helped me out a ton. Houston Rodeo, they have this thing called Rodeo Rockstar. And I actually did it. I won. And in that competition, you win a free studio day at Stormy Cooper Media, which is Roger Krager's bass player's studio.
We know Stormy.
Yeah, Stormy Cooper. Yeah, everyone knows Stormy. And he really was huge. You know, he helped me a ton with really getting started. And we recorded Out on the Dance Floor, which was one of my first songs I released, and that's helped me out a ton. And so that I took that and then moved to Nashville. Right after I dropped out of high school, I recorded those songs and then went to Nashville. He actually recommended it because I did want to move to Austin. But he said, "Man, I think you should go try out Nashville. Just go try it out. You're young. You're not even 21 yet. Just go, kick around there for a little bit." So I did.
Pretty good advice, man. And taking a demo that Stormy produced, I mean, that's a great way to start. I'll say, one of the best things someone can do is to go sit in those small rooms and listen to the folks who are playing, because you never know. There are the Luke Combs and the Stapletons that come to, and you can get bit. And if you're good enough, because it is a town where good enough really matters. If you're good enough songwriter, good enough presenter, good enough singer, you might have a 1 in 100,000, 200,000 chance. But getting bit by that bug early and seeing how it's really done well is a great thing that town can offer.
It is. Well, I mean, anything in music. I mean, if you start early, you get that itch. I mean, you start working on it every day, you're gonna get better. Whether you're chasing that road to wherever you want to go, I mean, you're gonna eventually get better.
But the competition, and it never ends. But that competition you did, I was doing some reading. I was probably around 2014 maybe.
I think so. I think it was 2014.
5 or 6 years ago between now and then. So it does take the time it takes, and it does. A constant learning process, right?
I mean, every single day you got to put your mind to it. And I think I can honestly say every single day from that time I recorded at Stormy Cooper Media, it has been every single day, nonstop, whether I was doing something or it was in the mind of thinking about what I'm going to do next. It's been constant for 6 years. Nothing has ever gotten in the way of this. It's always been working towards goals. And you would, like everyone says, you got to set 5-year goals, and you just got to keep working at it every single day.
And you moved back from Nashville to Houston, right?
I did. Actually, when I met Alex Torres, like I said, I'd released Out on the Dance Floor. I'm sorry, my story kind of fast forward through a whole bunch of stuff, but I released Out on the Dance Floor, and then I met Alex Torres, and my whole goal was really in Nashville was to build songwriting. It wasn't to do the artist thing at first when I first moved. I really just wanted to get my door into the songwriting parts and build myself to where I can come back to Texas and hit the scene with great songs. And not that, I mean, there's amazing songwriters in Texas. I just didn't have any connections in Texas. And so I figured, I'm going to go start in Nashville. And thankfully I did, because I met Alex Torres, Shotgun Rider, and Jamie Lynn Wilson and Gabe Lee. And anyways, I moved back to Houston, and we started touring the scene last year. And, we hit the road hard. Really did.
You got your BMI affiliation, and then
yes.
Yeah. And I think you were the first signing of the new BMI Texas office. Is that right?
I believe so. Mitch Ballard, he was great. So I really appreciate him and the team at BMI. And
I just think it's a cool combination between your experience in Nashville, figuring out that you wanted to be a songwriter on that level in that kind of scene, coming back to Texas, then you're signed as a PRO affiliate, a BMI PRO affiliate out of Texas, which I still think is an amazing thing that can happen now.
Right.
And then you found a way to spend time going back and forth, because as we all know, this slowdown happened. You were really starting to ramp up the playing, the live music, the weekends, it up. And then that happened, and then you made time to go back, because no time like the present if you can't play shows to go be around that scene again.
Right. Well, and we were really pushing this year. We had shows lined up all year, and then we also had a goal to create the album. Obviously, the shows pushed back, and so that gave me time. Really, I mean, I hate saying it, but it's kind of a blessing that kind of happened, because it gave me 100% time to focus on writing. And I don't think any artist would never have this amount of time to write. Yeah. While touring. I mean, it's crazy what we have right here, and I try to take advantage of what we had in front of us. And I got with writers like Terry McBride, Russ
Awesome.
Long and all those guys. So it's been fun. Brett Beavers, he's from Waco.
Yeah. So you
All
found your
those guys.
songwriting. You found your songwriting group to get started with and make an impact.
I did, and been real blessed. Been real blessed to have the team out here, and it's been a great year. We got the album completely finished 2 days ago. So
Congrats.
super pumped about it. Thank you. I'm so excited. It's country music, and I'm super pumped for it to be out. We don't know when it's gonna be released yet, but
So let's talk a little bit about songwriting, since we're kind of leaning that way.
Yeah, Fred.
You were talking about how it felt. You went to a studio and you've teamed up with some producers, and you weren't sure if you're going to be comfortable because you got to pick everybody before, and now you're walking into a studio kind of cold. But what about songwriting, co-writing? When you walk into somebody that you don't know, how do you get? Explain to me how the relationship starts, or do you guys go sit and have coffee first, or what do y'all do to get to know each
well,
other?
it helps if they're from Texas. It helps.
Sure.
That gets the conversation going for sure. But it's difficult, especially when you're writing with these guys that have freaking hits. And I'm nowhere near. When I first got in these rooms, I was nowhere near the songwriter I should have been getting in those rooms. But thanks to
No one is with those guys. Yeah.
Right. And thanks to Alex, he really just believed in what I was doing, and I think this is what helped was being a new artist. I think at their level they understand because at one point they were me, brand new artist, no experience, barely have experience in the writing room. So being with those guys that are have been in this town, and they understand how I could feel walking in a room like that. So it definitely helps to be with those people that understand. But when you go in the writing room with somebody you don't know, it is a little nerve-wracking. You try not to think about, what they've written or how many, this and that. But I think you just kind of start conversation, where you're from, this and that. And honestly, everyone here is country music fans, so I think we got that one thing in common. So
Is it hard to open up? Because I do co-writing with several people, and I was in Nashville. I had to walk in with Sean McConnell, who's a hoss.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, here we go.
Yes.
And so to immediately be able to open up, because songwriting is coming from the heart a lot of times, and you have to really, if you're going to write something meaningful, you have to really open up. And
you do.
So how do you do that? Are you okay with that now? It was hard at first, I'm sure.
It was hard at first. But I've realized that when you block that opening up part out, songwriting to me is all about energy and vibing. And if you block that out, it's not, the vibe in the room is not going to flow as it should. I think that's important really to think that once you block that creativity in your mind, it's not going to come out the way it should naturally.
Sure.
It took me a long time because I'm a very shy person. I've always been. But with music, I open up. And once I block that out, my mind is stuck. I can't think of anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I drink an energy drink with 300 milligrams of caffeine. I don't think of anything but opening up, and we're good to go.
Awesome, man. That is great.
But I've realized that when you block that wall of creativity in your mind, it just completely shuts everything out, and that's the worst thing you can do in a writing room.
Yeah, and there's no mistakes, right? You're in there just trying stuff.
Exactly.
Even like singing melodies, you're like, oh, am I singing off key? Or,
right.
So you have to have some confidence like you do when you go into that writing room. Like, hey, I've got some songs under my belt. I've got this confidence. This guy wants to write with me, because he wouldn't be in the room if he didn't want to write with you.
And that's the hardest thing, too, to realize that, these guys want to write with you because they're writing with me right now. So that's another thing you got to get out of your head. Like, oh, I don't belong here. I'm not even ready for this. But you got to get out of your head and just let that creativity flow. That writing room is really all about the flow of energy. It really is.
How about living in Nashville or staying some time in Nashville? You go to the grocery store, or you go to Starbucks, or wherever you're going to go in town, and everybody's like, "Hey, man, you're a writer? Is that what you do? Let's get together and write." It seems like. Right. I went there. I had like 25 numbers in like a 24-hour period of people that wanted to write. But you got to pick and choose who you write with, for sure.
Well, I remember you go down here to a writers round where people play. You guys know, you get so many numbers. But that's what I love about Austin or Nashville. You go to a writers round where it's a normal thing, and you meet people just like you that just want to write music.
Yeah.
And that's what I did when I first got here to town. I wanted to meet people. And when you're in a town that are full of musicians, you're not one of a kind now. You're in a group of people just like you, which is a great feeling.
Yep.
And just the opportunities out there. I mean, writing with somebody you've never met is actually really fun. I mean, you just get together and you actually become friends. Built a great friendship with a whole bunch of writers here in town that, you know, me and my buddies, we either write and then we'll go hang out. But it's cool to be around writers for sure.
So you're in Nashville, and these songs better be great because you've had plenty of time to write and concentrate on your songs.
I hope so. I hope they're
I mean, we better have songs for years.
The hardest thing I had to do was we've written, I don't know, maybe close to 30 songs this summer, and we've recorded about 20 of those, and now I have to cut it down to 13 or 12. I'm like, oh God, I don't know.
Just give them 10. Just give them 10.
Give them 10, right?
Yeah. So how do you? So this is I guess a personal question. How are you affording to live in Nashville without playing?
Without playing?
Yeah.
Well,
you can answer or not answer, or just blow me off, and we'll edit it.
Let me think of that. You know, actually, yeah, it's been difficult. I'll tell you this. It's been difficult. You know, when you rely on income for a long time, as in touring, especially. If you told me January 1st that I was not going to tour, I would be freaking out.
Right.
But thankfully, yeah.
Well, I'll save you and
what
grab
a great
it here.
question.
I'm going to grab it here, and it'll actually segues nicely into kind of like, well, actually, I want to do one on the songwriting side. Have you met, you know, I think I always talk about on this thing, like there's always these like few moments in an artist's career where someone comes in out of nowhere and kind of shifts your path in a great way. I guess it could be in a bad way too, but generally in a great way. I mean, like, have you had that within the songwriting world? Did you have someone just kind of come in and just change everything, like open up your eyes?
Great question.
I've had multiple people. Honestly, I would say, not to leave anybody out, but I mean, we've really built a circle of writers that have done that for me. With every writer has done that for me, honestly. Every writer I've been in every writer room I've been in this whole summer has been just real helpful. Great energy, great vibe. I would say the first co-write I've ever had here in Nashville was with Terry McBride and Bryce Long. And Terry McBride and Bryce have really launched me up and have helped me mentally, just with confidence and getting in the room with, you know, good positive attitude, ready to get something done. Those two writers right there have helped me a ton. And Brett Beavers. And so honestly, every writer I've written with has really done that for me. There hasn't been, you know, a single one, but I'd say Terry McBride has really been that guy for sure.
Guys, I'm gonna steal a selfish question here just because I really want to know this. Like, man, I am, and I truly mean this, like my Spotify plays reflected. I actually had someone text me and be like, why are you listening to this song so much? And it was, it's Darling, man. I am like obsessed with that song. And so I would love to hear the story of that song.
Oh my God.
That is badass. Like,
okay. All right. So I'll keep it rated PG.
No, sir. No, sir. This is a podcast.
Let it go.
Oh, man. So, all right. Okay.
Your mom's not going to listen to this. So come on.
Funny. Okay. So, new kid on the block, you know, start doing shows and, you know, Twitter, this, that. Well, I made a big mistake. I invited this. I probably shouldn't even say this, but I'm just going to do it anyways. I invited – gosh darn. We were in College Station at Hurricane Harry's.
Oh.
Yes.
Hey, I grew up in that place.
Yeah, okay, so that already sounds like bad news, right?
I think I already know the story.
I got some bad stories from Hurricane Harry's too, so just keep on going. Let's go.
Yeah, I want to hear this. But so we were opening up for Shotgun Rider. Great group. Logan Sanford, amazing artist. Opening up, so I invited 3 girls, and I remember being, you know, backstage hanging out with them because we're great buddies. I was like, yeah, guys, I invited 3 girls. I don't know how the heck this is not going to work. I don't know what I'm going to do. And they're like, man, you need to, like, cancel. You triple book. That is not good. I'm like, yeah, I don't know how this is going to work out. So anyways, they actually came together. Like, these girls found out I invited 3 of them. And they took a picture. All right, so they took a picture. This is funny. So I thought the night was going great. I had a great time. They took a picture together. And they you know, were going through each messages from me individually, and I kept calling them darling, like that was my word. I guess I called every girl darling. It's the funniest thing. So, oh God,
this is badass.
The next morning, you know, I wake up and I check my Twitter, and I see the picture of these girls, and I'm single, like I'm not in a relationship or anything, so I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. Well, sure enough, they go on Twitter and they say, I found or met this girl last night, and I guess Triston's been calling her darling. Who else has he called darling? Well, I'm not kidding, man. All these girls just go left and right, like posting screenshots of things I sent like months ago. I was like, oh,
darling, darling, darling.
So it was darling, yeah. So
It's a nightmare, dude.
So what happened was, I mean, it went viral. Like, it was bad. And, you know, obviously people thought I was in a relationship for some reason, just based off that picture. They thought we were talking. Anyways, I probably shouldn't be saying this, but yeah, so darling happened. And I was like, well, damn, like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I can't say sorry, but they're not going to care about that. They already have their own opinion. When it's out there, it's out there. What am I going to say? So I took off Twitter. I was calling Alex. I'm like, Alex, I'm freaking out. What do I gotta do?
I'm off socials.
Yeah. So I just, you know, I took a break, took 2 days off, but I already had this song Darling already made. Now, this is a funny story. I didn't have it planned to release this song at all. Like, I didn't like the song at all. It was supposed to be a ballad. It was super slow. The work tape is super slow. So sure enough, I was like, dude, we have that song Darling. Now's the perfect time to release it. Like, this is free promotion. We got to get this song out. So 2 days later, I posted this, and I remember we were at Brownwood at, what's that dance hall? The little bar, Waylon and Ray's. And I stuck, because everyone knew about it, I stuck tape and I said darlings with a Z, like plural. And I took a picture of it and put on Twitter. This is my reply to everybody talking mess about my situation. It said darlings, and I said new song called Darlings coming soon. And everyone, all the girls that were talking mess were like, all right, he's good. He came back with some news. That's fine. So that's the whole story back behind it. Like I said, I didn't want to cut it, but with that thing that happened, I was like, you know what better time to do it than now? You know, make something fun out of it. If there is anything out of that could be good. But
That's your most streamed song on that.
Oh, dude.
yeah, well, I hate
It's the
saying
song
it,
from
man.
here to here for me, man. Like,
Yeah, all the girls think it's about them, so it's like everybody's listening to it. All the girls you call darling.
They know it's about them.
That's your listening fans right there.
You know, after I wrote that song, I threw that word out of the dictionary book. That is gone. Don't use it.
but don't give out the new word. We don't want to ruin your house. Don't tell us.
So
That's fantastic.
But honestly, that was a fun one in the studio as well. Like, I sent it to Alex on the way to the studio, and like I said, it was a super slow song, super ballad. He wasn't feeling it either. I wasn't feeling it, but we were just going to cut it for the hell of it. And we were struggling hard with it. You know, in the studio, that's another thing too. Like, in the writing room, there's a vibe, but in the studio, there's even more vibe when the musicians and you connect. Sometimes it just don't work out. Sometimes you got to either move on or figure out how to make it work. Alex Torres, who's a drummer, you know, thank God, he's like, man, I think we need to make this an upbeat. I think we need to do what, you know, drummer language, talk, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, man, that might be cool. So we sped it up, and that guitar lick, I blew up. I was like, that's it. That is it. Thank you. So, yeah, that's the whole backstory. So I didn't like the song. There's a story behind it, and we released it, and then, you know, it came out.
And we're gonna hear that. We're gonna hear this in a minute, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
You want me to play that one?
Do you like to play that one acoustically or no?
Yeah, I do. I'll have to tune down my guitar half step down.
Sorry, cool. You don't have to play that one, man.
Yeah,
but I think we call this thing the Moment You Made It podcast. And so like we all kind of take our turns saying, you know, the moment you made it. And it's funny, you know, because I feel like you're like on a rocket trajectory right now. So I don't even know if that moment has truly happened, but it's funny because I mean, I didn't know a ton about you. I'd had Ballard told me to listen to you when he signed you, and I had it on my list, didn't listen to it. And then Brendan came to me and was like, dude, you got to hear this. And so I played it.
That's
I
awesome.
finally played it. And dude, I just became obsessed with it. And then I started looking you up, digging in like I do. Like I turned into a music junkie. And man, just the fact that you can, like all of what you've done so far to have I think it's at 1.7 million on Spotify, all by yourself, and you know, obviously with your team, etc. But it's you know, I still don't think I think your moment you made it is obviously coming, but I think it's very impressive to what you've done so far just in the short time you've been doing it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I couldn't do this without myself, or without without the team. Jesus, I didn't mean to say it. That's funny.
There's a soundbite.
Couldn't do without myself.
Yeah, I didn't mean to do it. I couldn't do it without the team I've been surrounded by, and real thankful and blessed for the team I got, and they've been working just as hard, and it's great to be with the team like that for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, boys, do you want to do one, or you want to have them play, or what? It's up to you guys.
Well, I just want to say, I mean, yeah, it's an interesting case because some of the folks we've talked to on this podcast have been around for, many years now, some several decades now, and they made their mark, and they've got obvious milestones to point to, and it's, proud moments and low moments and all of the things that go into making a music career happen. It's great to see someone who can be single-minded about, a vision and see it through. And I think, when I look at what you've done so far, and I wouldn't put a stamp on anything and say, you've made it yet. I wouldn't want to limit you to what you've done, because you're obviously, like Nick said, you're going to do this and so much more. But, having the single-minded vision to take a break, go to a town like Nashville, which can be incredibly intimidating, just driving into the city limits with all the baggage you carry and expectations you carry going into a place like that, and all the realization that this could go really badly, and trusting yourself and having the confidence to go sit in those rooms, hear those people and say, I can do my version of that, and I'm going to do my version of that. And then to hear it translated in these songs, I think just says a lot about who you are, your confidence, and your understanding about who you want to be. And so, like I said, I wouldn't want to limit what you've done and what you're going to do by saying, well, he made it at this point. But a lot of people don't have that sort of courage and confidence to take that step. So I'm taking my moment here to say, I wish you all the best. I think you've got
thank you very much. Appreciate
this huge runway in front of you. So it's going to be really fun to watch.
I have to echo what Brendan said. It's almost like exactly what I wanted to say also. The confidence you have to sit in the songwriting room and open up. That's huge. Yeah. That's a big step. Takes people sometimes years to figure that out.
Yeah,
well, I appreciate that. It definitely did take a little while to figure out. I still haven't figured it out yet. There's sometimes I get in that room and I'm just defeated.
Sure.
Sometimes it just don't work out. But again, I think it's repetition too. Just getting in and out. Good or bad, you just got to keep doing it.
I think you've found your feet, man, and I think any songwriter would tell you, and mostly the ones you've been writing with, Terry and Brett and all those guys, would probably tell you, like, this doesn't come easy. And it's a daily learning experience. Do you have anything you're excited about right now you'd like to play?
Honestly, new stuff.
Anything
you'd
like?
The lyrics completely.
No, anything you'd like. And it can be.
You pick it. It's on you.
And, I think I'm real excited about the newest single we released, One Day. That honestly is like like I said, I'm not a big fan of Darling. Like it's never been one of my favorite songs. I don't know why, but. Man, I'm glad it's going, but
yeah, it's a drug for me, man. So just so you know.
Well, I appreciate that. That means a lot.
Can you play that one?
One day?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Let me get my guitar real quick.
Yeah.
Take your time.
Yeah, it'd be nice to hear something that you yourself think is quality. Your best work, your favorite song to sing. That's awesome to hear.
It's not always the most popular songs, Fred. You know
right.
this, and Nick, You've been around enough these guys too. It's not always your most popular one that you're most in love with. That's for certain.
It's generally not.
Yeah, it's generally not. And it's funny how the crowd can sometimes make that pick for you, and maybe it's surprising sometimes. Like I really liked that song, and I really had fun recording it, and I love that they love it. I wouldn't have called that, but fantastic.
Yeah. Maybe that's the right answer. I wouldn't have called it. I like the song because it was fun to write, and obviously I've had that idea in my head forever since I've been calling every girl darling. I mean,
story maybe
you don't forget. Yeah, you don't forget that lyric.
No, I don't. No, there's no way. Oh man, College Station though, it's always fun to play there. It's never a bad time. Boone's Farm. Oh my gosh.
Oh. I just gave me a headache thinking about it.
I'll give you a 30-second thing. So I grew up in College Station, went to high school there. We started a cover band there. Half the members of that cover band went on to form the Pat Band that did kind of the big stuff with him. But we really got our start playing a keg stage that Howie, who manages Cody Johnson and Roger Craig and I, would build for us on Sunday nights. And we got our chops playing at Johnny Lyons' place, Texas Hall of Fame, and John Whittington's place, The Tap. And we did all of that when we were sub 18 years old, 18 years old. They'd let us in the back door. We'd set our stuff up and play, and they would let us figure out how to play on their stages. So, College Station, won't go into all the insane stuff that happens in those places, but yeah, it's if you've got good experiences there, man, those will translate other places.
Oh yeah, for sure. Cool. So yeah, this one I wrote with. You know what? I also take back what I said about writers as well. Andy Wills, me and Andy have been writing. So he actually was my first writer I was in town with. That actually really opened the door. Me and him have written, I can't even count how many times. Me and him, like you meet these writers that you really connect with and you stick with them. Those are your go-to guys. Andy is one of those guys for me, and he's been real great as well. We've written Darlin'. We wrote Forgot About You, this song One Day with my mother, Jamie. So it's Andy has been great to write with as well. That one's been fun. So this one's called One Day. This is my guitar. It's all taped up, you can tell. She's seen some better days.
You got a Martin there?
It is.
Nice.
Martin. But cool. Yeah, this one's called One Day. Girl, what we got ain't much enough. A little home that needs some loving, like the old AC that's hard to know. Car out front that's barely going, little TLC. By you and me, it's all around. Maybe waiting and see that one day pull up to our front gate with the last name. Roll up the driver's seat and go swing, swing. I was running up, sun's going down over our place. Gonna look back and laugh at these days. Baby, one day. Though it seems hard to believe, I promise you I'm gonna do everything. Break a tree, just hang with me. Wait and see that one day. Pull up to our front gate with the last name. Roll up the driver's seat and go swing, swing. Dogs running up, sun's going down over our place. We're gonna look back and laugh at these days. Baby, one day. Yeah, there's gonna be a whole lot of change and rearrange. One thing that'll stay the same is me and you. One day, pull up to our front gate with the last name. Roll up the driver's seat and go swing, swing. Dogs running up, sun's going down over our place. We're gonna look back and laugh at these days. Baby, one day. One day.
Oh man,
Thank you.
man, I'm a fan. That's just great. Thanks so much for playing that for us.
Of course, thank you. Thank
Got a
you.
big future in front of you.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate that, y'all. Appreciate that very much.
Well, man, we cannot thank you enough for spending time with us today. And I was so impressed by those shows I saw of yours. And I wish you
Thank you.
nothing but the best and continued success. And I know with the guys you got around you and your confidence and your talent, man, I really do look forward to what the future holds for you, man. Thanks so much for talking to us today.
All right. Thank y'all so much for your time. I do appreciate it. I had a great time. It was fun.
Cool.
All right,
Thanks
Triston.
a lot, man. That was
Glad.
fun.
Good to talk to you.
We will see you down the road, man. Look for us. We'll be out there.
Yes, sir. Sounds great. Y'all take it easy, all right?
All right, brother. Have a great day.
All right, y'all too. Thank
See
y'all.
you.
Later. Thanks so much for tuning in to The Moment You Made It. Got a question, comment, or great idea for an upcoming guest? Let us know. Shoot us a note at hello@momentyoumadeit.com. That's hello@momentyoumadeit.com. Thanks for tuning in and see y'all next week.